Welcome, everyone. If it's Friday, we're talking climate. And today is Friday, November 12th. We've got a couple really great talks for you. I'm really enjoying this format of some kind of lightning rounds by a variety of different folks to be able to come in and really harness the power of this group and its collective action. Just a couple quick announcements from me. And Kate, thank you. You submitted a blog, did this the right way. I'll put the website in our chat again. If you aren't going to the website, there are a couple things that you can do there. Everyone is able to submit a blog post for us, and those can be academic, they can be white papers, they could be poetry, they could be recipes, they could be just about anything. I'm looking at you, Tom Small, for some maybe inspirational writing that we could post. And the other thing that you can do is, I know you can always email me, of course, but really we've also created a form so that we can be a little bit more intentional about how we schedule the programming and kind of who gets to present and take their 15 minutes of fame during these Fridays for future. We are off for, I would rather call it Native American Heritage Month. Let's just say we will not meet for the fourth Friday of November in order to celebrate that rather than what the American name that we all call the fourth Thursday. So we won't meet again, folks, until December. The second Friday in December will be our next meeting. So I don't know how I'm gonna take it. I won't see y'all for like a month until December 10th. Will be our next Fridays for Future, and we'll have another good mix of presentations. Kalamazoo Township has a climate committee that has been doing some work. I see Nikki Lee and Tim Tesser and Mark Miller, my colleagues on that committee. We got to get a presentation ready for December 10th and talk about what we're doing in the township as well. And following that will be League of Conservation Voters, who will give an overview of public comment. As we then continue to work, I'll take some time on December 10th to also continue to talk through how do we continue to utilize collective action and have a countywide campaign to make sure that not just our city and our township, but everyone, there are 24 governmental units in Kalamazoo County, but that everyone is on making some progress towards that county climate emergency goal. That's really where we're headed and why we'll be doing public comment along with Kalamazoo Township on December 10th. I know there are a couple other folks here that want to do announcements, and this is sort of general announcement time for the first few minutes. Did you want to go ahead, Susan? I got Susan Matthews, and so this got brought to me. Michigan United and several other groups are also trying to coordinate, right, on some trainings, which we all realize we do sort of need in order to utilize our power. Susan, do you want to tell folks who you are, where you're from, and just give us a little overview?
Sure. Thank you very much, Denise. So my name is Susan Matthews, and I am the Deep Canvas Coordinator for Michigan United. And we are in the process of working on a climate script. No, we actually are in the process of doing deep canvassing around climate. We worked with a national team doing an iteration for a climate script that can be used all over the country. But relative to deep canvassing, that's what I'm here to really announce, because deep canvassing is, or to introduce, deep canvassing is a process that makes our interactions with other people transformational as opposed to transactional. And as I look out at all of you, I believe that you understand the difference. But when we discuss anything with people, we want to make sure that we're listening and interfacing and trying to build a connection with them in order to have our conversations actually make progress in the way that they think about things. And ultimately, what we're using deep canvassing for, regardless of what we use it for, is to build a bigger we. Like all of us here, we are incredibly concerned about the climate. And what we want to do when we use deep canvassing is we want to make sure that as people go to vote, they are looking at the candidate's position on climate first and foremost, and then deciding who they're going to vote for based on their position around the climate. So ultimately, we're trying to build a bigger we. Now, the reason I want to introduce deep canvassing and tell you a little more about it is because it has been proven to be 100 times, actually 102 times more effective than any other form of canvassing. And I know that sounds like, oh, baloney, but no, it honestly is true. I started doing this 3 years ago around an immigration issue. And we did it then for research. And the research is really quite remarkable, because what we found is that when we interface with people using this deep canvas method, it truly is building an emotional connection. We listen deeply to what they're saying, and we respond with our own experiences that mirror theirs, building that connection. And they start processing what they believe based upon how you're helping them see it differently. So in addition to it being 100 times more effective, we have found, like I said, I started with deep canvassing around immigration. And then last year for the elections, the results were really quite remarkable. But before I share those with you, I also want to say that we know that it has large persuasive impact. And when I say we know it, that's deep canvassing. So when it's done in a manner that really uses compassion and understanding, it will also inoculate the people that we're talking to from the fear messaging that they get from the opposite side. And then the last thing that I really want to shout out relative to deep canvassing is that we have found that these conversations can make, and I know these are hard to believe, but when you start doing it, you'll understand how this can be true. That with one conversation, and our conversations average roughly 15 minutes. Some will go 45, we try to have people keep it under an hour. We had one young man that went 2 hours trying to persuade someone. So we know there's a certain point where it gets ineffective. So we try to, if you're getting that far into it, it's probably just someone wanting to be a naysayer.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. I think we might need a longer session as this continues to develop. And you've got my email. Let's get you get deep canvassing on the agenda. And as you can see, we're starting some of our own campaigns, and we're doing collective action here. My email's in the chat. Would you put your contact and anything that we need to know in the chat and shoot that to me, and I can start getting our community up to date. And all the political candidates over the years know this is why I'm not allowed to go door to door anymore. Or call anybody, because I want the hour-long conversation. I don't work the numbers anymore, right? Thank you so much for coming and talking to us a little bit about that. And I know this is a partnership through Michigan United, correct?
Yes, and Denise, can I just suggest one more thing? We are actually currently working. Last week, we had a session on story building. So when you're talking to people, we had people come together and share their experiences with the effects of climate change that we are running into personally, whether that be flooding, fires, PFAS, lead in the waters, whatever it is. We had people come together so that everyone can then meet each other and use their friends' experience. We can't all have enough experiences that can relate to everyone, but when we share, we can. So what I would also like to ask is that, Denise, as we do those sessions, that we reach out to you folks and ask you to join us so that together in our state, we can really start making a difference when it comes to the environment. And I want to thank you very much for letting me join you today.
Absolutely. Welcome. And I look forward to more collaborations. And Deirdre has an announcement that I think the deep canvassing trainings and the things we're going to be training next month on public comment will actually really start to dovetail together. Deirdre, you want to tell us what we need to know about consumers' energy, integrated resource planning, and all things that we can comment on?
Absolutely. Thank you. Deirdre Courtney, for those of you that don't know me, I'm working with the leadership team of Empower Michigan. It's a state table affiliate with the REAP network. Basically, we are working at this time to engage in energy democracy work, especially around, like Denise mentioned, the Michigan Public Service Commission and the Integrated Resource Plan. And so just in short, Consumers Energy has a 15-year plan on how they will spend our money as it relates to delivering energy. This being the case, we as customers want to see Consumers Energy dump coal and gas, turn to wind and solar energy, and ultimately shift to clean energy. We believe that ultimately the cost should be relegated to investors and not borne by impacted customers. So to everyone that gets energy from the Consumers Energy, and can say that consumers, we want you to be a part of our efforts to say to Consumers Energy that we want to be engaged in how they spend our money for their 15-year plan. And we're asking everyone in the Consumers Power territory to go to the link that I'll share in the chat, which is myfuturemypower.good.do. I'll share the link in the chat. But anyway, we're asking you to share this link. I also have a QR code with individuals that you know are constituents or Consumers Power customers, and also for you to give a public comment. But anyway, on that website, you'll find out more information about the IRP process, Michigan Public Service Commission, and we hope that we can present to this group sometime in the near future, so maybe in December or January. Thank you.
Yay, thank you, Deirdre. And this is exactly what we need to be utilizing this collective action in this community for. A little bit of training about how to do this really well, and then let's target some actions. So I know you're all here today to hear our two speakers. I think we've worked out that we're going to let the city of Kalamazoo go first. And Jamie McCarthy, our Sustainable Development Coordinator, is here. And I also see Ian Magnuson from the Environmental Concerns Committee of the city, through which this planning process, that's its public facing body. And so Jamie, I know everyone asked me, what is the city doing? And I said, you got to come here and you need to tell us what the city is doing. So I'm really glad that you are here. Please take it away and give us an update.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Keel, and thanks everyone for inviting us here. It is a really exciting time. You know, we're wrapping up stuff at the end of the year, and we have some plans at the city to get our sustainability plan out to the public here really soon. And so that's where I wanted to come and give you guys an update so that you were, you know, poised and ready to dig into that, to make comments and to bring your voices to our city commission, to, you know, collectively help advance that action on climate and other sustainability topics to our city. So I'm going to share my screen here. This is a short update. I don't have a whole lot. I'm happy to answer questions at the end, but I did put together some slides so you have something interesting to look at while I chat here a minute. And then Ian, I'll go through these slides, and if you want to add anything at the end, I wanted to also give a shout out to the Environmental Concerns Committee at the city. They've been very dedicated and always always pushing, but really supportive of jumping in and helping. And so they do have a review committee that's helping us in our final stages of review to get this plan out the door. So I think all of you know, because you've been super engaged, that this process started, at least since I've been with the city, over 2 years ago. This line actually goes back a lot farther too, but we're going to try to be forward looking. So it just, you know, this talks a little bit about where we've been. We had sort of 6 months of momentum starting, and then we had this global pandemic, which, you know, changed how we did things just a little bit for a period in here. But we were able to kind of pick up at the end of 2020 and finish some focus groups that we had started, that our advisory committee had really encouraged us to go talk to some experts and practitioners and folks in the community who were working on some of the topics that would be impacted or changed by a plan. And then in 2021, we've been focusing much more on internal department collaboration and getting their feedback, understanding process and some information and data. We've been the latter half of this year really getting into plan writing, and then we're getting ready to release something here soon. An overview of sort of where the draft stands right now. We have sort of 4 core principles, I guess I would call them, that came out of our early steering committee. And that was that the city and all of our community really needs to be moving toward net zero carbon, kind of following the current science and changing systems that we have to change to mitigate the worst impacts of climate change. And that this should be a community-wide plan. Now, it is certainly, I think the actions that you're going to see in the action table that come out of the plan, they have some connection to the city and how the city will participate, right? Will the city lead in action? Will the city support or connect other folks in doing this action? Or are there ways that the city can help advocate, right? We can help our community partners advocate. We can even work with our peer communities across the state to advocate. So those are kind of the 3 areas, but it is a meant to be a community-wide plan. We certainly heard from folks that the environmental justice and equity were really important to our community and needed to be woven throughout the plan. And that our community succeeds when we are healthy and we're resilient and we have a path forward together. So out of those 4 underlying principles, we heard and talked to our steering committee about topics and areas where we needed action. And we have sort of 4 different sustainability visions or themes, if you will. And so that touches on an accessible and complete mobility network. Really core of the program is how do we become a more affordable and efficient city? So this is all around energy, decarbonizing buildings, and thinking about the personal vehicle and electrification. We also have a section on healthy, prepared community. So this is more about that, not only community resilience, but also how people interact with nature. And then the last section here is about green circular economy. And I'll just kind of quickly show you, the different actions and goals that are going to be, that are in each of these categories, but you can see everything from sustainable land use and non-motorized transportation to that decarbonizing and electrifying buildings and transportation, very much green space, natural watersheds, biodiversity, and how people and the environment integrate and become more resilient. And then the green circular economy is about, our food economy, making that more local, more circular, reducing waste. And then also talking a little bit about our public utilities here in Kalamazoo. We have our wastewater treatment plant. We have certainly a large waste stream that comes from that. Okay, so what's coming up? This is what I wanted you all to be aware of. We are still in our review committees and some internal review that we're wrapping up here in November. And our plan is to put out the first draft of our plan here right at the end of this month, beginning of December.
Announce the meeting.
We've started some of our community engagement. We're getting to some of our boards and commissions. So I made a presentation to Planning Commission. I'll be stopping by as many of those boards and commissions as I can over the next month. And we're going to be at the ECC for a presentation and to get ECC and public feedback in December. And then we have plans then to take the information and the feedback and what we've received from the community and put out a final plan, make revisions, changes that need to be done in January with the hope of and the goal of getting city commissions, full approval and adoption in January. So what can you all do? First, I would recommend, if you haven't already, you've likely been there, but imaginekalamazoo.com, we do have a sustainability website and you can get project information there. You can sign up now to get on our mailing list. So you will get an email when this stuff comes out. So you won't have to constantly navigate there. You'll get some updates. You'll certainly get an announcement, the big announcement when the draft plan is ready for you to download and check out. We will have some locations for folks to grab those in print format too, some limited ones around libraries, neighborhoods, and things like that. But you will be able to download the plan there and you can leave comments that way as well. You can also reach out to me directly. Either of those are fine. But, big picture, if we talk about what can this group do, reviewing and commenting on the plan, that's important. But I'm really hoping that you all can help connect other folks. And I'm thinking about other organizations in our community who are not as well connected. If you serve on boards or volunteer or have a role in other organizations, this plan talks a lot about our housing industry and our housing nonprofits and community partners, and how that's going to be so key into changing our buildings and, making sure that we have, more equitable energy and utility bills for folks throughout the community. So perhaps organizations that don't necessarily think of themselves as connected to climate work or sustainability work, being able to get the word out to them that they could look at this plan and think about their own role or think about how to get connected, that would be incredibly important. And then, of course, I encourage everyone to, come out to City Commission, talk to folks that you're connected to at the city and lend your support. This can be a really challenging topic to engage folks who don't feel very connected to it. And we had no favors with a global pandemic where we all kind of, stayed home and are connecting more electronically or virtually like this. That's not always very easy for everyone in our community to get connected this way. And so you're going to see in the plan, certainly some early first steps in implementation is doing some more of that engagement. I think our engagement is going to be a continual, action that we need to do. But when we get really into certain tasks, when we think about lowering energy bills, the plan's pointing to certain census tracts, and we're going to be able to get right down to the block level and give out door hangers and engage people in a meaningful way that at this bigger level, it can sometimes be hard to get folks' attention. So I think that it would just be important for the city and City Commission to hear how important the work is, even though it's hard and even though it's going to feel expensive or daunting, that, there is a large coalition in Kalamazoo who wants to see this work done, and that it's very worthwhile in pursuing. So, Ian, do you have anything from ECC's perspective that you want to add?
Sure, just a short thing. Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for the presentation. Yeah, so hi, everybody. A lot of new faces I'm seeing here today, which is awesome to see so many people kind of working in parallel on the same thing. My name is Ian. I'm on the City of Kalamazoo Environmental Concerns Committee. I am just coming up on the end of my first 3-year term here, which I only joined the committee to help do my small minuscule part to shepherd this through. So I'm just missing the deadline, but I'm going to take it as a win anyway. So I just wanted to quickly lift up 2 opportunities that are coming up. So our next meeting is next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. The easiest way to do it right now is we're going to be virtual at least one more time. That you can go to the City of Kalamazoo Facebook page. They broadcast it there, and you can get the Zoom information. I think the big issue next week is going to be this deer management plan that's been kind of a perennial issue. And hopefully we can finally get something dealt with there. But more importantly, related to the climate plan, Jamie mentioned there's going to be a presentation to the ECC, and that'll be at our December meeting, which is on December 15th at 4:30. So every ECC meeting is the 3rd Wednesday of the month, if that helps you remember. And then finally, I'm just going to throw it out there. If you have a group that wants to learn more about sustainability planning broadly, especially if you represent like the township or Portage or something like that as well. I have a Master of Public Policy and did my capstone on sustainability planning, and actually just last Monday did a guest lecture talking about the basics of it. So it's a little academic, but if you have a group that needs to just kind of get up to speed on the basics, and Jamie's not available for the Kalamazoo specifics, I'm happy to do that. And so I'm just going to plug my contact info in the chat, and hope to see some of you at our upcoming meetings. Thanks.
Thank you
Ian,
both.
that's a cool resource, and I would encourage folks to take advantage of that. I just had one of our local agencies asking about, do I know of any good consultants who do climate planning work? And I don't have a lot of experience with really local folks or firms that are doing this kind of work. And I think at the city, we're always really excited about kind of organic, hands-on planning. And so I feel like Ian can help you fulfill that and give you some information that it's hard to find in other places.
Well, thank you both. First, everybody in our world gets a round of applause for coming and sharing. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see this moving forward after many years of work and dedication by many, many folks. I'm sure there might be a question or two for Jamie. And what I heard was a draft plan by the end of the month, and then public meetings in December that we can get all of that out, email and social media, and make sure everybody's up to date on that. But questions for Jamie, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, raise your hand. I can call on you. You can throw it in the chat, whatever works best for y'all. I'm sure somebody has a question for Jamie or Ian. Mr. Tesser.
Yeah, so I'm on the Kalamazoo Township Climate Committee. And one thing we decided to do was to include in our plan a copy of the climate emergency declaration that the township passed. So I'm wondering if you, Jamie, have thought about that, because I know the Kalamazoo Commission has passed such a declaration.
Yeah, I was just revisiting that because absolutely, I think connecting this to commitments that the city made is really important. I think it's also, we're going to have the opportunity to connect this work to all of the city commission and the city's strategic vision and the Imagine Kalamazoo plan. I think there's all sorts of crossover and ways that accomplishing goals that feel climate-based are also accomplishing other outcomes that we want to see at the city. So I think, yes, starting with that resolution, which the city adopted 2 years ago as well, is really a good starting point.
I'm sure there's other questions. So I would just add, of course, many of you are up on these things and aware. We just had a city commission election, right? And we have 4 new city commissioners. Of course, Don Cooney's not new to anything in city government. And so he knows what we've been doing and what the emergency declaration and this planning process has looked like. But we have a real opportunity to educate 3 new elected officials. Stephanie Hoffman has presented to this group before, and many of you know these city commissioners. But there is a changeover in government, which then requires all of us to restart that education. I saw Jeff's hand, and then Tom Small, and then don't worry, Kate, we'll move it along after that.
Thanks, Denise. Hi, I'm Jeff from WMU. Jamie, can you describe whether the city engaged with consumers' energy in some way or in no way during the process? Or maybe it's written about in the plan and I just have to wait to read about it. I'm just curious because Western faces similar planning exercises, opportunities, and challenges, and I'm dreaming of the way we interact with consumers' energy.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And so yes, the city's a customer of consumers' energy, right? Unlike some of our other entities like Western, who has, you have the ability to generate some of your own power, we get everything from consumers' energy. So we often have, we have sort of a regular working relationship with them. Our wastewater treatment plant participates in a peak demand planning, so we can shift some of our big energy demands to other off-peak hours. And we were definitely been engaging on trying to get more data community-wide, right? Like we can get access to our own energy usage data, but community-wide, we've had some level of success in some partnerships. We're also partnering with their pilots division, which we've had, I think, an easier time working with the pilots division, who's helping us on a commercial building benchmarking tool and program that should be rolling out in Kalamazoo beginning of next year. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done and a lot of opportunity that we can seek. And if there are others in the area who, this kind of speaks to Tim's question about, what we can do together as different municipalities. If we could find a way to track and get data, not only get data from consumers' energy, but then track it more collectively. I mean, we certainly are concerned about our city boundary because we have, responsibility within that, but it becomes difficult. I was able to get some data on like zip codes, and you all know the shape of all of the jurisdictional boundaries around here. They're a disaster. They're not on zip code basis at all. So I would say that, we've had some good luck and some good conversations, and we have a working relationship with Consumers Energy, but we have we have challenges too, and how we share data and what that looks like.
I think Professor Small, you last question, and happy belated birthday.
Hi, Jamie. Thank you very much. And in what ways are neighborhoods and neighborhood associations going to be involved in these final stages of the approval process? And can those of us who are engaged in neighborhoods be helpful in some way?
Yeah, we reached out at the very beginning of this process through our neighborhood activator, who works pretty closely with neighborhoods and used to hold a quarterly all neighborhoods meeting. And I think those partners were really helpful in getting our community sustainability survey out and kind of helping us on the front end get some input. And we've had a bit more challenge, I would say, I have been engaging our neighborhoods, in part because we're losing our neighborhood activator, and we'll be posting that position soon. And that the quarterly meetings, haven't been probably the same as they were before COVID, when we all got together in a room and sat and talked about what each of our neighborhoods were doing. So if folks have connections with their neighborhoods, I'm more than happy to come and give a presentation or give a 2-minute plug if that's what you have time for me on your agenda. And there are certainly, you're going to see in our action table, there's actions that we certainly need to be getting done at the neighborhood level. There's been a cross comparison of sort of goals that have been in individual neighborhood plans and what relates to sustainability. And so I appreciate ways that folks might be able to get me in touch with the right folks, or make sure you're getting your boards interested in the topic and let them know that it's coming.
Great. And I see a couple of really great comments in the chat. Yeah, we're going to be relying on folks like Susan Matthews, Michigan United, Michigan League of Conservation Voters, and this very coalition to help understand those plans, make good comment, show up for folks, because not everyone sees the world through the climate lens like we do, and we really need to be making sure that we are active voices in that community. So I thank you for that, Kate. And yeah, getting the data in the community level is really difficult, as Deirdre is pointing out, and so it's great for the folks on the call right here. A lot of representatives from Portage and Kalamazoo Township and other townships are sort of here today, and everyone's sort of trying to work towards the same thing, which is what our county action campaign will be about. Ian, did you want to make a last comment about kind of everything?
Yeah, just a quick one. Speaking of showing up, I might be preaching to the choir here a little bit, but I just really want to hammer home that one of the reasons we passed the climate emergency declaration in September 2019, and then also passed the NFP overlay, is because so many people showed up in person. City Hall was like super crammed. And so just want to really lift that up, that showing up does make a difference, especially to City Commission folks. And then just to reiterate, we're virtual right now, but the City Commission plans, at least as of right now, to go back to in-person meetings effective in January. But that might change, but I just wanted to give a heads up on that. So show up and pay attention to where the meeting is. Thank you.
And Paul, I'll try to quickly address, I know that the city has purchased ICLEI, the ability to collect that data. And I think we're gonna have to wait for the plan to understand how that's gonna be utilized within decision-making. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Ian. I'm glad you came and gave this update. Now everyone can hear the same information and we can move all of that forward. I see a couple announcements in the chat that I neglected to make in our kind of open season at the beginning. And so thank you, Jeff Spolstra. Yes, Western is embarking on strategic planning, and we need every one of you to go in there, and guess what comment you need to make in there? Climate, energy, sustainability are important things that our own university should also be tackling. Right? Every institution has to take this on. If you were at Kalamazoo Nature Center members night last night, if the Kalamazoo Nature Center can take it on, right? It takes money and leadership and board presidents being involved. We can do that at our university and we can do that at our city. Please go to that link that Jeff put in and give your comments if these things are important to you to see Western do as well. Thank you, League of Conservation Voters is hiring. I'll be sure to spam everyone with those so we can get some more great folks working for all of you. And I know I sent this out Tuesday or so, and I'll send it out again next week, but two of our members of the Climate Change Working Group at Western will be giving talks. Sorry that I didn't coordinate. They're both next Thursday. So you'll have a chock full Thursday, November 18th. You'll get to see Dr. Paul Clements at 3:30. He'll be live and in person if you can make your way to Friedman Hall. If you don't know how to do that, don't worry to be on the Political Sciences Facebook page. And then later that evening via WebEx, Dr. Sibel Shattuck will be speaking on her new book that just came out, Faith, Hope, and Sustainability. So I'll blast those out again, Paul and Sibel, so that everyone is up to date. But mark your calendar next Thursday, the 18th. All right, Kate, are we ready? You got plenty of time. We got to 1 o'clock, plenty of time for a conversation, presentation. Kate Miller and Anna Salerio. Hi, Anna, it's been a while. A graduate of Western, and our programs, our graduate programs, and then just kind of kept going with 350 Kalamazoo, one of our affiliates here in the coalition. And I know that you've been talking about this for a while and are always sending me stuff. And so I'm so glad you're here to present it on your own. Do you want me to go ahead and share the screen and do that for you?
Yes, please.
All right, I think I'm ready. So
Okay.
I think everyone knows Kate. You might give yourself a little introduction and introduce Anna, but I will share that. Everybody hopefully sees the screen.
Yes, it should say 350.org. Kate Miller. I'm Kate Miller. I'm a grandma. I'm an advocate for the environment and an advocate for community. And I am a member of 350.org. I'm sure people know what that is, correct?
I would hope so at this point with this group.
Good, yep. Trying to end our addiction to fossil fuel. Excuse me.
And I'm going to be navigating Kate's slides, so you get to tell me what to do, Kate.
I will, okay. Let's see. So we take on initiatives that seem more relevant to our area because 350 doesn't always, sometimes it pushes things that we can't really do. So we do other things. Anna Salerio, who you just met, is the one who researches for me and writes most of what you read. Slide 2, please, Denise. Recently, I returned from driving to Duluth, Minnesota to visit family, and I drive an electric vehicle. So when I recharge, it is usually in a parking lot that has stores or restaurants. I recharged in Chicago, Madison, and Eau Claire, and all over I see cars just idling on a perfectly nice day when you don't need to heat or use your air conditioner. In Duluth, it's the same phenomenon, and Richland and Kalamazoo too. Hold on, I did something on my screen. What did I do? Trying to look up phenomenon for me. Just a moment, please. Thank you. So in Richland and Kalamazoo, I see people leaving their cars running while they go to the post office or to the grocery store or to get coffee. And I've seen trucks idle for hours at different workplaces. So a landscaping company, they just keep their trucks running while they're out doing their landscaping. Road commission trucks, same thing. We have a sewer authority around here. He does the same thing. So sometimes I ask them to turn off their engines and people answer with, it doesn't matter, or I can't turn it off. I'm using my cell phone. I need to have my battery, which I don't think is true. Or it will only be a few minutes. I was just about to leave. They also answer with, get out of my face. And often I ask who's paying for the gas. And for the trucks that landscape employees drive, or the sewer authority or the road commission, those employees say my boss pays for the gas. So it kind of makes sense they wouldn't have that on their minds, but I'd like to have it on their minds. And it saddens me that people just don't consider that exhaust from cars and trucks causes many of the health problems that people face more and more. Air pollution is an invisible killer. Idling is not only bad for the environment and our health, it is also expensive for the owner of the vehicle. So idling more than 10 seconds uses more fuel and increases the costs and frequency of engine maintenance. According to the EPA, not idling. In other words, turning off your engine increases the life of your engine. As you can see on this slide, diseases like asthma, lung inflammation, allergies, and cancers are related to these emissions. And the emissions are not just carbon dioxide, as you can see. When I think of children standing around the school buses, the exhaust pipes of a school bus are much higher and they're about at the level of a child's face. They are breathing this pollution. Next slide, please. One bright spot experienced during the pandemic was the reduction of CO2 emissions or pollution related to human activity. Here are pictures of China before and 3 months into the pandemic, and you can see the incredible difference that there was no human activity, no cars running, no trains, no airplanes, and factories were shut down. Slide 4, please. Thank you. The atmosphere above Europe also had an incredible reduction in pollution from carbon activity. Slide 5, please. Here's the East Coast and the US. The difference is also astonishing. Okay, slide 6, please. Implementing no idle communities can be a first step towards improving the quality of our air. Newer cars have an automatic device that cuts the engine when the car or truck comes to a stop. So you'd think, okay, well, maybe I should do that too. People don't always think that way. Old cars do not have the capability to cut the engine when stopped. It would be great if some graduate student or some entrepreneur could develop a small device that you just put into the engine that would cut the engine when the car comes to a stop. That's not available yet. So it would be good to encourage cars and trucks to turn off their engines while they are stopped. So we suggest mimicking this new technology. I would call it techno mimicry. Over the course of the past 2 years, Anna and I have thought of positive reinforcement incentives and awareness campaigns to implement no idle. I'm from Richland, and we have addressed the Richland Township, the village of Richland, and through this process, we learned that we needed to ask the Kalamazoo County Road Commission. The Kalamazoo County Road Commission allows us to put signs in private parking lots like Harding's Friendly Markets, the banks, a coffee shop, McDonald's, as long as they are not in the road's right of way. Another hurdle to cross over is, will these private parking lot, will these stores, will McDonald's allow us to put no idle in their parking lots? The EPA has a program that can be used to teach students to run their own campaign for a no idle community on school campuses. This is student-led, and it includes STEM activities, which makes it more comprehensive across all different disciplines. I think we could use this on the university level too. So we have sent letters to all the school boards in Kalamazoo County to encourage adopting this program. And we reached out to all the Richland churches and local businesses to ask them to place signs in their own parking lots. We've had no responses, except for one. Richland Area Community Center does have no idle signs. We've faced a lot of resistance, but we continue to work and promote this initiative because we believe that awareness is important and that idling is destructive. So we welcome, slide 7, please, Denise. Thank you. We welcome any ideas you have, and remember, take the no idle step. Thank you.
Hey, round of applause for Kate and Anna. Thank you for that. Sounds like something we ought to put in that transportation part of the city plan.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some work we can add there. Questions, comments, suggestions, supporters? I see a couple things in the chat. Yeah, Ian, we just had someone comment on Western's policy about this too, and talking to landscape services. And I think a lot of people do still actually think that it takes more gas to idle, like to turn it off and on, than it does to idle, and that seems to be not true anymore. And the stop-start technology in the new cars is really taking off. Questions for Kate and Anna? Huh? What do you? Yeah, Nikki, and then I think.
Mine's a simple one, Kate. Where do you get the signs? The no idle signs?
We can we put that in the chat? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have a couple of websites. Good question, Nikki. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, good question. Huh? What are you thinking, Tom?
Hey, Kate, Tom here.
Hi, Tom.
Hi. Do you have any numbers that would help maybe support the case? Like how much pollution, how much fuel is saved by in a certain amount of time? And, what's the key point or critical point? I used to hear 30 seconds. Now you're saying 10 seconds. That's a good number.
Yes, 10 seconds is what the EPA says also. And the US Department of Energy. 10 seconds, yep. It used to be 30, and we were raised saying, don't turn it off. It'll, it costs more to turn it back on, and that's not true. So.
Yeah.
Does that
Part of
answer?
the benefit of new cars is they do make a lot less pollution than 30 years ago when I started working in the industry. So that's one of the things people say, oh, it doesn't matter, because the pollution really is reduced. And and I don't even know what the current fuel consumption numbers are either at idle. So that would be interesting to know. In the opposite direction, you have remote starters on cars, and people leave their car out in the snow and then just turn it on for 20 minutes to warm up before work. That to me is a big problem, but
yes.
So I'm with you, but you need some numbers, I think, to convince people to say it matters.
Thank you. So numbers being, when you're idling, you're using up this much gas?
Yeah, how much gas per hour and things like that,
And does that depend on the car? Because super sporty cars are different than trucks, maybe?
Trucks are another whole other subject. I mean, big diesel engines, I used to work in that industry too, and they wouldn't shut them off because they wouldn't restart on a cold day. They had a real hard time starting, but they're better now.
Okay.
So it isn't necessary as much as it used to be. But yeah, it used to be same with the power companies. Another reason they keep them running is because of spark danger. There used to be a fear that when you start the car, you generate a big spark. And if there's any natural gas in the area, that could blow. So the natural gas trucks would never shut off. So there are some reasons for commercial vehicles staying on.
Okay.
Just to give you a little perspective, because that way people are not as likely to bark at you.
Yeah. I went to a dinner at a country club one time, and there was a wedding going on. Outside was a diesel, huge limousine truck or limousine bus kind of thing. And after a while I got to thinking, I think I'll go ask him if he'll turn that off, because I didn't know if it was running. So I went out, it was running. He said, would you please turn off your bus? And he said, I can't. If I turn it off and I can't start it, the guy from Grand Rapids has to come down. I left the restaurant 3 hours later, he was still idling. And it just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Okay, but thank you for your input. We need more of that.
Yeah. Nikki, you want to get in there again? And then I'll
Yeah.
these things in the chat.
Have you talked to like Metro about their buses? Is the no idling also appropriate for that? Because once I asked one of the drivers of the Metro Connect, which is the small vans, and I said, you're idling and it's your lunchtime and you're just sitting here. And I was told never to turn it off. So you might want to just talk to Metro about this also and get your facts about buses and vans, whether it's still appropriate to turn them off or not, because they idle.
Yeah, Tom, thank you, Nikki. Do you have input on that, Tom?
Oh, you're on mute, Tom.
I think the issue there is the same, Kate, that if you can't get it restarted, now you got a major hassle. So they probably had a few cases where somebody shut it off and it wouldn't restart. Then they had to go get a tow service and the bus line was stopped. So, you know, there's a greater good to keeping it running, I'm afraid.
Mhm.
Well,
Sometimes.
doesn't that depend on the temperature and, yeah, and all sorts of other factors? I mean, they can be turning it off in summer.
Right. It's a really good point. And Nikki speaks from experience. I don't know how long you served on the Kalamazoo countywide transportation committee. I always forget its acronym is silly to me. But that Sean McBride is the Metro Transit director. I think, Kate, if you don't know him, I'm happy to connect you. I know that he's been reaching out about these very kinds of issues to some of us at Western about how he can further tackle climate change within the bus and metro transit. I think this would be one really easy thing that we could start doing, right? And yeah, thank you, Jeff. I think just for the campus police, you know, I forwarded Jeff all the, hey, I saw this happening at Western, please deal with it. I forward all those that I get to Jeff Spolstra. And we just got another recent one of those from Landscape Services. And again, I think it does really depend, but it seems like there's a huge opportunity for tons of education. And I see, Dan Bear, you've been in here. You're just such a transportation advocate and following you. And you know, I learned about this from being in front of schools, right? And the kids trying to get out, and the bus is the same thing at Western. Like if you stand there and it is really terrible. Dan, did you want to go ahead and make your point and talk to us at all? I think he's still with us. You all can see him in the chat there. If you're on Facebook and you don't follow Dan Bear, every great post about transportation that I've ever learned anything, I learned it from Dan Bear. What else is in there? Did I catch everything? Yeah, and back to maybe if Jamie is still on here, what about maybe thinking about electrifying transportation and Metro bus? Where is that maybe going to go in? I know that you had the big 4 categories. It was kind of a big picture overview, but if you're still on there, maybe you want to address that a little bit. I think it's just like we all know this is a huge area, right?
Yeah, that's funny you said that because I was listening to some of these comments and thought electrify, right? Like that's a different engine than we're dealing with something having to start and stop. There is a section in the plan as part of Affordable Efficient City, which is more energy based, that talks about strategies and work we can do to start electrifying. I think one of the focuses for the city, just in how we work, we do local planning, we set certain ordinances and rules. It's that making sure we have a robust and equitable charging infrastructure throughout the city and throughout different neighborhoods. That's really important. And we talk a bit about city fleet in there. And we have Metro Transit has been a partner in ours in doing some of this planning. They are separate from the city. Although we kind of share some ownership. But I know that cost seems like it's always the issue with new technology and changing over an entire fleet. But by 2040, the whole fleet will have turned over at least once anyway. So we're going to be making this investment. And so I think it's really promising to hear folks like Sean who want to think about sustainability and think about their purchasing in the future.
Thank you. That's good news.
And thank you, John, weighing in the chat. We can only hope for some infrastructure dollars to help us do these things, right? Because it's sort of like, okay, pricing carbon, great, but really what I want to do is get rid of carbon, right?
Yes.
Idle, great, but really what I want to do is get rid of cars that are running on fossil fuels. But we have these kind of interim steps we can take to make sure the economics of that system work as we make this transition, and everybody in here buys their electric cars that don't have that level of emission. Then we just got to fix where I plug it in, which is why Deirdre's here. And then the tangled web of climate change overtakes us. What's up, Nikki?
Well, the whole time I was with the CCTA and the KCTA, I was pushing electric. Grand Rapids is now in the process of buying electric buses and experimenting with them, and Metro buys their buses basically through Grand Rapids. It's a way of getting them less expensively. But Sean has said that he's had bad experiences in Kalamazoo with the electric buses because when you leave the transit center, everything is uphill. And so the batteries wear out very quickly. And I think the biggest problem is trying to convince Sean that he should try it again, that the technology has improved. But I was pushing it while I was there, and Grand Rapids is now doing it. So hopefully he's willing to at least experiment again at some point.
Yeah, on that subject, Nikki, you've said that before and I couldn't believe it because you get the energy back when you go downhill.
I
So
know,
if
but
you got a decent battery.
I'm quoting him.
That's the whole beauty of electric is that all the energy downhill is recuperated. Whereas with a typical bus, you got to run the brakes and turn the energy into heat. And
Well,
that's
actually,
totally
it's not
backwards.
all recuperated, Tom. I drive an electric car. And
Okay,
when
but
I
it's-
go
it-
downhill, I don't get it all back from going uphill.
No, but your
that's,
accelerator is, yeah, your accelerator is your brake and it's regenerating the battery.
That's entropy. You can never do it perfectly, but you can at least try. So electric is beautiful that way. And that's the whole reason. Start and stop for a bus. Every time they hit the brakes, you're saving energy with an electric bus. So it's a perfect use for electricity. They got to figure out how to do it. And Grand Rapids apparently has.
Grand Rapids, as I said, has, they've started going back to some electric buses.
Good. Yeah, as far as no idle, I was on a meeting last year, a summit meeting, I think it was Michigan Environmental Council. And some of us were in the chat part saying, we're having trouble with no idle. At least that's what I put in. And I got this other chat from somebody else. She said, I'm from Detroit. We have no idle and we can even take somebody's license plate and call them in if they're idling. And she said, I don't know why you're having problems. And then up in Traverse City, they were having problems also. So yeah, very interesting.
Well, these sound like, again, issues that we can solve together and then utilize collective action to overtake. All these seem really doable to me. I can't wait to be riding an electric bus, and I see absolutely, even I might buy an electric bike. Bike is like yeah, there's enough hills here in Kalamazoo. I feel like we could figure out a route system that would figure that out, right? That's why I don't ride a regular bike, because I'm too embarrassed. And for EV stations going up everywhere. Well, folks, those of you that are able, if you need to talk to any further, happy to hang on. Sorry, Susan Matthews. There's a lot of Susans on here today. Sorry, Susan Matthews, that you didn't give you quite as much time as I think you probably needed. I would like to invite you back, and this community is very interested in training and thinking about not, there's public comment, and then there's what you're talking about with really true deep canvassing, which is a much more collaborative exercise than calling in and going to that meeting. And I would love to be able to use a variety of those tactics and tools within our community. Again, next Thursday, November 18th, you get to hear Paul and Sibel in one day. So all you're from ideal theory on climate justice to religious responses, all in one Thursday, November 18th. And we will not meet again for Fridays for Future until Friday, December 10th. Again, Kalamazoo Township, and then League Conservation Voters on public comment, and myself will talk about a little bit more unveiling of what we hope to do on some countywide collective action campaigns in here. Well, thanks everyone. If it's Friday, don't idle, and get ready to get comments on that sustainability plan. Have a great day. I can hang out if anyone wants to check in with me. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.